Fiber Flux. Welcome back to another Q&A. This is the November Q&A, and each month I grab a handful of questions that I'm either seeing a whole lot of or maybe something that's interesting that popped up that I thought that I could share with all of you. So the first question that I'm seeing is about the holiday crochet along. And in case you're wondering, or you may have missed the video yesterday we kind of kicked off the crochet along for the 2017 holiday crochet along, where we're making this beautiful tree skirt. It is a nostalgic granny tree skirt is the name of it, and it's a series of granny triangles stitched together to make a circle, and then I've added this pretty scallop to the bottom of the pattern. Now it also has a button closure. So yesterday we kicked off the crochet along with week 1. I talked about the intro, the supplies, and then for week 2 we're going to be talking about how to make the granny triangle itself and join it together. For week 3 we're going to be talking about some of the finish work, how to add the scallop edging to your project, and also how to add the buttons if you'd like the button closure as well. So that is the holiday crochet along. The second question, one of you, maybe two of you asked, but I thought it was really interesting, was how to turn a standard scarf into a cowl or an infinity scarf. I thought that was a really interesting question, so I grabbed a scarf that I have. In case you're wondering, this is called the Ingrid scarf. I made this scarf pattern a long time ago. It's a very easy to stitch up scarf, and I've added this kind of fuzzy alpaca lacy picot border. So what you can do a couple things. If you want a permanent connection, what you can do is take the two ends of the scarf and kind of sandwich them together, and a matching piece of yarn and a tapestry needle, and whip stitch them together. So simply just sew them together, weave in all your ends, and you'll have a permanent bond to your two ends. The other thing you can do, if you want to kind of make it a convertible cowl or an infinity scarf, is you can, if your scarf has open enough stitches, see how the stitches kind of, you can get a small button through there. You can sew a series of buttons to one end of your scarf and then go ahead and button it together. For a third, more temporary hold of your scarf, if you want to make it just for the day or for an outing, a temporary hold, you can take your two ends and use something called a shawl pin or a shawl stick, some people call them, and simply just fasten it that way and just kind of wear it. So those are 3 ways to attach your scarf: permanent, kind of a semi-permanent, and a very temporary hold to hold it together. And an infinity scarf is really helpful because as you move and bend around, your scarf will stay around your neck. So that was a great question. The next question I have is substituting yarn. So I get this question a whole lot, and I have mentioned it here and there in other videos, but a lot of you, when we're looking at patterns and different projects and crochet alongs, for example, we often need to substitute yarn. That may be because of availability in your area, or it might also be you want to use up what's in your stash, which is something I like to do quite a bit. But sometimes we just need to use a different yarn, or we just can't find it, etc. So there's a couple things you can do to help you substitute yarn. The first thing I always recommend is to look at the yarn label. You want to make sure that the yarn weight sort of matches the yarn that you'll be substituting in your pattern. So this happens to be a 4 or a medium on the yarn weight scale. So the yarn weight scale is a very good guideline to use when substituting yarn. Now sometimes within those numbers, it's a scale of numbers, and it also has names. For example, this is a medium. You may have, for example, this is like a super bulky yarn. So I'll put the link down below for that chart. It's very helpful. And but sometimes there are a variety of hook sizes within the different sections of the yarn weights. So you'll also want to look at the recommended hook or needle size. So if we look at this label, for example, this recommends a US 8 knitting needle, and it also recommends a I crochet hook. So those are also very good guidelines, the yarn weight plus the recommended hook or needle size as well. The last thing you can try when you're substituting yarn, like let's say you looked at the label, all of those things kind of match up with the yarn you want to substitute. The last thing that's also very, very helpful is to make a little swatch. So swatching is very helpful in order to get gauge of your project, which we can talk about in another video or another Q&A if you have questions about that. But you can use it to help you find gauge. You can also make a little swatch to see how the fabric that you're working up, the knitted or crocheted fabric, will drape in the particular stitch work that you're doing. And also, sometimes I even like to work the first couple rows of a pattern just to see how the stitches are presenting themselves. Do things look kind of loose and sloppy? Do they look too tight? Is it curling or distorting in any way? So swatching, working up the first few rows, the yarn weight scale, and the recommended hook and needle size. All of those things help quite a bit when substituting yarn. The next question I wanted to talk a little bit about is steam blocking. So a lot of times we make a project and we want it to kind of lay a little flatter, or we want to kind of open the stitches up a little bit. Now, when you have natural fibers such as cotton or wool, you can wet block pieces. That is submerging the pieces, pinning them back, letting them dry at least overnight. Now for steam blocking, when you're using fibers like, for the example, the gray in this is acrylic yarn, wet blocking is not super helpful. I've had a little bit of luck with it, but you can try it for yourself and see. But steam blocking really helps with acrylic yarn. It'll just open it up a little bit. And what you'll want to do is kind of hover your iron on the steam setting over the project and while it's pinned so that it can kind of loosen up those fibers and open things up a little bit. I have a full video tutorial where I walk you through the entire process of steam blocking, and it helps quite a bit to kind of see it unfolding. So check out that video. I'll put the link down below for that. If you have natural fibers and you want to learn how to wet block a piece, I also have a full video tutorial on that as well. So blocking is a very helpful tool, if you will, to have on hand if you need to kind of open up your pieces or flatten some things out. The last question for our Q&A is a question that I get once in a while, and that is, how do I weave in a very short end? And this is another one of those questions I touch on a little bit in some of my videos. But in case you missed it, when you have your tapestry needle and you're weaving in your ends, you need a little bit of space in order to bring that needle back around and weave that in. Now sometimes when we're working, either if we accidentally cut the yarn too short, or maybe we've worked the very last little centimeter of the ball of yarn and just got by with the ball of yarn and finished our project, which I know if you knit and crochet quite a bit, this has probably happened to you. And sometimes it's just so hard to weave that little tiny piece of yarn in. What I like to do is, instead of threading the tapestry needle and weaving it in, you can take your project. I'm going to keep using this scarf as an example. But what you can do is take your needle and put it into the project first. So if you're weaving in this end, like so, put the needle in first the way you want it to go, and then put the tail in. Like let's say you have a little tail right here, and pull it through. So by putting the needle in first, you're getting everything into position and then pulling it through. Once again, I do have a full video tutorial in this if you want to see me actually do it, but putting the needle in first and then threading it will help quite a bit, even the tiniest little pieces. So those are my Q&As for November. I hope that you enjoyed this video and maybe learned a thing or two. I always love to conclude these videos by asking all of you a question as well. So my Q&A question to all of you for November is, where is your favorite place to crochet or knit or craft? Where do you like to go to kind of get away and relax and work on your projects? Are you kind of a lounging kind of crafter, or do you like to knit, crochet, craft on the go? Do you like to do it at the doctor's office or in line somewhere or wherever? So where do you like to knit, crochet, or craft? Leave your comments below, and I'm really excited to see what all of you say. For me personally, I do kind of a combination. I love to knit and crochet for relaxation. So I have a spot in my home, like a favorite chair that I like to go hang out. But also, I do find that I get a whole lot done if I have a small portable project on the go. So a lot of times, now I mentioned this in another video, I like to keep my work in a zip top freezer bag so all the dust stays out or what have you. And all of my tools and notions or everything are in the bag, and then I throw that into a tote bag. So I am also very much an on-the-go crafter. So leave your responses below too, and that way everybody can read and see where everybody works on their projects. So I'll see you for the December Q&A. Happy stitching, everyone, and have a wonderful week. Bye, everyone.